Hello everyone, this is Gene and I'm back with a new video. And it's actually not about He-Man or Teela this time. Although I am thinking about maybe doing a video about the importance of vulnerability uh, for a character, especially if you plan to do a redemption arc for them. But because the one of the most terrible things about Teela's character is just how unsympathetic she is because they never allow her to be vulnerable in any um, significant way, and it's just hard to relate to a character or to a person, real or fictional, if you cannot see the softer side. If they don't open up, right? There's little to no vulnerability, but that's a topic for another video. I don't want to talk about it here. But I've been seeing this image floating around on the Twitters, and I just wanted to just briefly cover it because I think it's probably the best visual representation that I've seen recently of everything that is wrong, not just in comics, but just in geek media in general, right? Now, of course, the most obvious thing is the top, right? They're misspelling the April in April O'Neil. Just think about it for a moment, because this cover has to go past several people at the very least, right? You have the person who's doing the art, right? So you have the cover artist who has to draw this at the very least, right? At the very least, you have the cover artist who has to at least pencil this. Then you have the inker, potentially. Then you have the colorist. Then you have the person who does the lettering. So at bare minimum, at bare minimum, three people just with the creation of this image had to see this and didn't pick up on April being misspelled. And then of course, I would imagine at some point this has to go to the at least the editor, right? The frontline editor, and then potentially the associate editor, the assistant editor, the associate editor, and then maybe even the editor in chief. I don't quite know about all that, but at the bare minimum, there are probably at least three people who saw this cover in its various stages as it was being completed, and no one apparently caught that very obvious spelling mistake, right? But to me, this is more than that, right? This is just another example of the absolute lack of care that is put into most geek media these days, whether it's the lack of attention to detail, which is what would catch something like this, right? But just putting the name issue aside, right? Look at just this bland as hell cover, right? There's nothing dynamic, there's nothing interesting here, right? It's just this very this image that doesn't even look like any version of April O'Neil that I've ever seen. It certainly doesn't look like the 1980s cartoon version of her, where she had this, very lively, you know, uh, personality and image. And I think the hair was more auburn in that one, but whatever, right? She just looks like any white chick in America that you might find in a Starbucks. And that's the problem. She's not supposed to look like any old person. She's supposed to look like April O'Neil. April O'Neil is supposed to stand out in a crowd, right? That's the point of being one of the main characters in a work. You stand out. No one else looks like you, right? But again, it's just this bland cover. This bland cover, and as much as I hate to say this because I don't want to come across as a sexist, but this might sound kind of sexist. But again, this hyper focus that we've been seeing for years now on women, whether it's women in the business or whether it's the way women are depicted in a work, how many female characters there are, whether or not those female characters are talking about men, right? The whole Bechdel test thing, right? Just this hyper focus on women. And it has not, at least from what I can see, whether it be this or Tila or She Hulk or Captain Marvel or uh, anything else, this hyper focus on women in geek media, whether it's the way they're depicted or the actual like female creators in the space. This hyper focus on it has done nothing but make the depiction of women or and the actual like hiring of women just bland, bland, lifeless, right? Established female characters losing their distinct iconic looks and personalities just to be, mannish woman who acts like a dude bro 25, right? It's losing your identity. It's like what is it? I think it was REM. They had a hit way back when I was a little kid called "Losing My Religion," right? That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight. Oh, that one. That, interestingly enough, was really about losing one's temper, and given my temper, I can certainly relate. But comics haven't just lost their religion, right? Lost their moral compass. They've lost their heart. They've lost their soul. They've lost their life. It is absolutely lifeless now. The funny thing is that I saw a tweet earlier, I think by Perch, who's at uh, Comics by Perch. He was talking about um, how comics used to be, edgy and punk rock and all this other stuff, right? And how they lost that. And I'm like, dude, like anything that becomes popular, right? Whether it be rock music, punk rock, comics, whatever. Anything that sort of had like a rebellious streak or rebellious element to it, the moment it becomes mainstream is the moment it dies. Because it loses everything that makes it distinct. It, whether people realize it or not, it becomes this image. It becomes bland. It becomes lifeless. It loses everything that is distinct about it. It becomes like everything else. Everything else out there, right? Your favorite band goes from having that unique sound to now sounding like every other band in a particular genre. Your favorite comic book goes from being this distinct thing that stands out to being like every other comic book that's out there today. It becomes uniform. It becomes corporate. That happens with anything. I mean, that was even mentioned like in the Rocky films, right? What's the song? Eye of the Tiger, right? You lose your passion for glory. Well, this is the result of glory. This is the result of increased mainstream acceptance. Just absolute bland, lifeless drivel. I mean, even this description says that, the turtle's best friend April is always ready to uncover new danger and help her mutant pals, and yet you don't see any of the turtles in this image. They could have gone with the classic, having like the turtles and April like running toward the customer, right? That type of thing. There could have been such a lively cover, right, with this. I still could have put April front and center, but yet in the end, we get this. We get this. It's just so sad. I mean, I remember. I'm gonna see if I can look it up, right? Because we used to get covers like. There we go. we used to get covers like this, right? This is the cover to X-Men 170, the classic Storm versus Joan Jett. I mean, Callisto fight, right? And even and you can see, and again, like this even has like the bland background, which is always something that's just annoyed me, just as a thing. It's like, put something in the damn background aside from color. But even with that, right, you can look at the center image here and tell clearly that there's a struggle going on. Even though it's a static image, right, it is depicting something very dynamic, a knife fight. You can see, especially on a Storm, right, that intense expression on her face, right. You can only imagine what happens in the comic, right? We used to get covers like this, right? And there have been some, solo covers. I think with Storm. There was one that I really like. Let me see here. That's not the one I meant. Take a look at these covers, right? It's just a solo image of Storm, right? And yet you look at this one, right? And you can see the joy, you can see the exhilaration on Storm's face, right, as she's enjoying, I'm guessing, the weather she has created, right? She looks like, she's laughing and just having a ball, right? Or let me see here. Or this one. This is one of my favorites, right? This sort of like, peaceful serenity to the image, right? These are the type of comic covers we used to get on the regular, right? Not every comic cover is going to be iconic or anything, right? But still, there was some sense of trying to uh, reach your emotions, right? To express something, some feeling, serenity or joy or anger or whatever. And we go from this covers like this to now blandy, bland, bland, bland. I may be thinking, Moljin, you're comparing comic covers from Marvel at different times to IDW, right? IDW is an independent. Marvel, this big company. It's not fair. Oh, it's plenty fair. It's it's fair because, first of all, comics is incredibly tight knit. So all of these creators go and work for these various companies. There are plenty of creators at IEW who have worked for larger companies like DC and Marvel, right? But I highlight those to show just how much things have changed in a few decades, where we go from art, expressive, emotive, beautiful art with a beautiful woman, a woman who is beautiful in appearance and in personality and spirit, Mother Nature herself. Marvel confirmed that she's an Omega mutant already. And we go from that to this. It doesn't matter that it's from two different companies. What matters is that what I was just showing with Storm has sadly fallen by the wayside in recent years, and now your standard comic cover looks like this. Especially if the focus of the comic cover is a singular female who is supposed to be iconic, right? April O'Neil is the most famous woman from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Even people who have never read the comics have heard of her because of the cartoon. And you reward that fame and that popularity with the blandest cover. I mean, this isn't even like vanilla, because even vanilla has some flavor. This isn't even water because water is nourishing. This is just bleh. I that's about the only way I can think to describe it. It's just bleh. Lifeless, dreary, and this has become the standard. The standard in comics. Not just in comic art or comic covers, but in comic writing. In particular, how they write women. As a woman who has loved comics and has read them off and on since her childhood, this makes me deeply, deeply, deeply sad. Because I grew up, load, I grew up with this. And now, as an adult woman, you serve where's that image? As an adult woman, you serve me this. You serve me this. As if I didn't have enough reason to keep the $6, and no doubt with tax, $6 and change that you want me to spend on this comic. No, 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 no. Did I say no? No. Hell no. No. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day or night wherever you are. Bye.